Vishnupada Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Shrimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityananda Vishnupada Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Shrimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prashadane Nirvishesha Shunmari Pashchata Nishadharane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare All right. Okay, so right. So welcome back to this Nectar of Devotion sessions. So we will continue today with the discussion on chapter 11, aspects of transcendental service. So till this point, we have seen 48 limbs of devotional service, 48 angas have been discussed, and we'll be continuing from 49 today, and we'll try to finish till 59. Okay, and if possible, we'll start with the last 5, which are the most important limbs of devotional service, and the next chapter, 13th chapter, will also discuss on that. Today, we'll try to finish chapter 11 and then do a major portion of chapter 12. And yeah, so there are some charts which I will share with you, which gives, we have been discussing before every class, we discuss the things that we have or what all we have discussed till now, the structure of the book itself, and a short summary of what is there in preface, introduction, chapter 1, like this. So there are some charts which have been prepared, I think by Gokul Chandra Prabhu. So those charts are very convenient for us to get a very good understanding of how the book is structured and what all is present, the subject matter of this particular book. So I will share it today in WhatsApp group, so you can go through that. So that will be very convenient. So for sake of time, saving time, we will not see the previous discussions. We'll just get into this. Okay. So last week on Saturday, we discussed 2 things in this chapter. One is Dasyam. Just 1 minute. Right. Okay. So we discussed Dasyam and 2 aspects within that, Karmarpanam and Kainkaryam. Karmarpanam is when one engages in Varnashrama duties and then give the results, offer results to Krishna. That's Karmarpanam. And Kainkaryam means directly rendering service to Krishna, directly engaging in pure devotion service. So according to Srila Prabhupada comments, according to Rupa Goswami, this Kainkaryam is important, or is the most important. This is commented by Srila Jiva Goswami, that Kainkaryam is considered as the proper way of engaging in pure devotion service. Right. Okay, and then we discussed about Sakhyam. Here also we had 2 divisions. One is Vishwaso and Mitra, that is having trust that the Lord will protect us, and the other one is being friendly or well-wisher of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada defined as that confidential servant of the Lord and well-wisher of the Lord, and we discussed about this as well. We saw some references of how Draupadi prays to the Lord to protect her, the trust or faith that she had that the Lord will come and protect her, because if you remember the past time, there was nobody else to protect her. And then she surrendered to the Lord, saying the Lord, or the hope that Lord will protect, or the faith that Lord will protect, and he did protect her. So that although Draupadi is on the topmost level of prema, but still this particular instant, she was acting on the level of Vishwasa here. So that is Sakhya. And we also discussed that when servitorship is mentioned, this Dasya is mentioned, it's one of the limbs of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. It is not the Dasya Rati, which is one of the five ratis or five attraction or five constitutional position of their living entities. Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. This Dasya and Sakhya is not speaking about those five sthai bhavas. It's speaking about the aspect, the limbs of pure devotional service. So we have, uh, so this is the servitorship was that, and Sakhya is this. So we saw this example of Draupadi, and yeah, and the second one was when a pure devotee lies down in the temple of the Lord to serve him as a confidential friend. Okay, so today we'll start with 49. Just before we start, okay, so this is Atma Nivedanam, just surrendering everything to the Lord. And there's one more anga which is called as being a surrendered soul, Sharanapattihi. So these two are similar, but we will see the difference when we come to this 52. Atmanivedanam, Sri Rupa Goswami quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, where the Lord says, a person who has completely surrendered onto me and has completely given up all other activities is protected by me personally, both in this life and in the next. In other words, I wish to help him become more and more advanced in spiritual life. Such a person is to be understood as having already attained sarshti, having equal opulences with the Supreme. So the main aspect here with respect to surrender is that the devotee is protected by the Lord. Srila Prabhupada quotes, basically writes, but quotes the verse Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Raja. He says, it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that as soon as a person surrenders onto the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna takes charge of him and gives him a guarantee of protection from all sinful reactions. He also imparts from within so that the devotee may very quickly make advancement towards spiritual perfection. And Sri Rupa Goswami says, learned people, they say there is two types of Atma Nivedana. One is surrender of the soul and surrender of the body with mind. Okay, there are two things. One is surrendering the soul itself and surrendering the body and mind. The one, Deha and Dehi. Deha is this body, which includes the mind, the gross body as the subtle body, and Dehi is the possessor of Deha, which is the living entity. So, Atma Nivedan can be divided into these two categories. According to different authorities, self is differently defined. Self is sometimes considered to refer to spirit self or soul. Self is sometimes considered to refer to mind or to the body. Full self surrender, therefore, means not only surrendering one's self as spirit soul, but also surrendering one's mind and body to the service of the Lord. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung a nice song. Obviously, Rupa Goswami did not quote this song because it was not written at that time. This is Prabhupada's own commentary to this. It says, mind, my household affairs, my body, whatever is in my possession, my dear Lord, I offer to you for your service. Now you can do with them as you like. You are the supreme possessor of everything. So if you like, you can kill me. And if you like, you can give me protection. All authority belongs to you. I have nothing to claim as my own. So this is a song, Manas Deho Geho, Jo Kich More, Arpilu Tuva Pade Nanda Kishore. Sampade Vipade, whatever problems come, Sampade Vipade, Jivane Marane, Gai Mama Gela, Tuva Upada Varane, Marobi Rakhobi. Either you can kill me or you can give me protection. Marobi Rakhobi, Jo Icha Tohar, whatever is your desire. Nityadasa Prati Tuva Adhikar. All authority belongs to you and I have nothing to claim as my own. So this is Dehi, surrender of the soul. Oh, sorry, this is Deha. Okay, so Dehi is surrendering, offering the soul is illustrated in the Stotra by Yamunacharya. So he says, my dear Lord, I may be living within some body as a human being or as a demigod, but whatever mode of life, I do not mind because these bodies are simply byproducts of the three modes of material nature. And I, who am in possession of these bodies, I am surrendering myself onto you. To this surrender of his soul, of himself specifically. Deha. In Hari Bhakti Viket, there is a statement regarding how one can offer his body in self-surrender. There a devotee says, my dear Lord, as a souled animal has no need to think about his maintenance and sustenance, So because I have given up my body and soul onto you, I am no longer concerned with my maintenance and sustenance, which basically belongs to the body. So he has surrendered his body and mind to the Lord. I'm not worried about my maintenance or sustenance. It's up to you to protect me because I'm completely surrendered onto you. So, in other words, one should not bother about his personal or family maintenance or sustenance. If one is actually surrendered in body and soul, he should always remember that his only concern is to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Right? This is surrender, where there is no question or there is no concept. I'll not say concept, but there is no question or there is no mood or there is no idea that I will have to separately endeavor or do something to maintain my body. I've surrendered to the Lord. If the Lord wants to maintain, then let Him maintain. Otherwise, whatever it is, it's all His ichha, tohar ichha. It's His desire. It's a very high stage to attain because for us, or the conditioned living entity, the body is very dearest. Okay, Srila Prabhupada explains that why is our body the most important or the most dearest person to oneself is his own self. And when we ask somebody, then he might say that, oh, my wife is dear to me, my parents are dear to me, my whole life is dedicated to serving my parents, my whole life is only for my children, I just want the best for them, like this. But all this is because they are all in relation to me. They're all in relation to me. I derive pleasure from them. I derive a sense of responsibility. If they are not satisfying my senses, at least by performing so-called duties, I derive a sense of responsibility, and that gives me satisfaction. That gives me some happiness. No, that's satoguna. That is this thing there, but it's me in the center. It's not them. So all the relatives who are there, they are important to us because we are at the center. And when we misidentify with this body, the body becomes prominent. But actually, why is the body also important? Because we possess this body. It is the most closest to us, most dearest to us. Because we have been in this body in this lifetime for so many years, but then we have been in association with this material body for lifetimes after lifetimes. So our association or entanglement with this body is so close, so tight that anything material becomes very dear to us, especially the body. And if we further analyze, the body is dear because the soul is dear, or we ourselves are the dearest to us, we can say. We see ourselves as the most important. And then, furthermore, the acharyas explain that we we are more important, or so we are the most dearest to ourselves, so to speak. And the reason is because we are part and parcels of Krishna. And because the living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna, for him, Krishna is the dearest for him. And therefore, the constitutional position of the living entity is not to serve himself, even in the spiritual realm, but to serve Krishna. Because Krishna is the most dearest. We being part and parcel of Krishna, Krishna is the most dearest of all. For everybody, for all the living entity. So, one who understands this completely, then he surrenders himself to the Lord, that I'm a part and parcel of God, and the best interest of me is to surrender myself onto the Lord. Krishna, what is that? It's a verse. Okay, again, skipping my mind. Okay. Oh, that verse that people do not. Nate vidu swartha gatim he Vishnu. Yes, that their gati or their swartha, their artha is the Supreme Lord. So this is a very difficult position to attain because we being dear to ourselves and we being very in close association with this body, it's very difficult for us to give our attachment to this body. But Atma Nivedana, a limb of devotional service in sadhana bhakti, is to give, to surrender oneself, and also to surrender whatever we possess. So we will see some references which will clarify this point more. Sri Rupa Goswami says that devotional service in friendship and devotional service in self-surrender are two difficult processes. It's very difficult to surrender oneself and one's body. Therefore, such relationships with the Lord can very rarely be seen. Only for the advanced devotees are these two processes easily executed. The purport is that it is very rare to see surrender which is mixed with sincere ecstatic devotion. One must give himself completely to the will of the Lord. Okay, so if you see the translation of this verse that Rupa Goswami writes, it's friendship and offering the self and body are rare because of the difficulty of execution during the state of sadhana. We are discussing the limbs of devotional service. We are discussing sadhana bhakti. And in the state of sadhana bhakti, it's understood that we have not reached, obviously, bhava and prema. This still material contamination is there. So at that point, having a friendship or being a well-wisher of the Lord, being a confidential servant of the Lord, or or doing Atma Nivedana, both for the body as well as the self, especially the mind, it's very difficult at the stage of sadhana. But still, some wise men have considered that these two qualify as part of sadhana, that it can be executed. Because even though one might not possess bhava or prema, ecstatic love, but still he can do surrender. Okay, surrender is possible, although he might not have reached the stage of bhava. So therefore, wise authorities, means the acharyas, they explain that it does not mean that Atma Nivedan is possible only on the Bhava stage, but that mood should be there, that one should surrender onto the Lord with this particular understanding, and that it's a part of Sadhana Bhakti only. Atma Nivedanam is Jiva Goswami commenting. Atma Nivedanam in its pure form is rare because of the difficulty in execution, not because of having an elevated status, since it may be executed even without Bhava. Sakhya is rare because of the difficulty in execution and its extremely elevated status, since Sakhya in its pure form possesses the most elevated bhava. However, if Atma Nivedanam becomes mixed with emotional relationships, it will become rare because of its elevated status as well. Pure Atma Nivedanam is seen in Bali Maharaj when he gave himself to the Lord. So, Sakhya or having friendship with the Lord requires some emotions, right? It's not mechanically performed. It requires emotion. Bhava is required to be a well-wisher of the Lord. Affection should be there. But in sadhana bhakti, specifically when we are discussing about Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, that might not manifest to its full extent. So it's very rarely attained, even in the stage of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. But Atma Nivedanam is possible because it only requires conviction and determination that everything else, material, is temporary, it's useless, and whatever I possess, I have to surrender to the Lord and be situated in that position by firm determination. So that is possible. It does not require bhava at that stage. But if Atma Nivedana becomes mixed with emotional relationship, it will become even rarer because the emotions are also involved. Pure Atma Nivedanam is seen in Bali Maharaj when he gave himself to the Lord. So Bali Maharaj, when he gave everything to Vamanadev, it's not that only because Vamanadev came as a Brahmana and therefore as a duty of a Kshatriya, as a warrior, he is giving everything in charity. That was not the only thing. He also had the bhava, he also had the mood of devotion to the Lord, of intense ecstasy for the Lord. That Lord himself is coming and asking me for charity. So therefore I should give everything to him. So he's not only performing that external activity of giving everything to him, but he also has this mood that whatever he asks, I'll give him because of his affection for the Lord. So this is Atma Nivedana mixed with emotional relationship. So therefore Jiva Goswami says Bali Maharaj is an example of that. Sharanapati, which is the 52nd limb, is acceptance of the Lord as one's protector, as the predominant factor. But Atma Nivedanam is making oneself the possession of the Lord. That is the distinction between the two. So Sharanapati is I surrender to the Lord and the Lord will protect me. Atma Nivedanam is making oneself the possession of the Lord. And whatever you want to do with me, you do with me. So my duty is to surrender. But then you do whatever you want to do with me. Not that I'm expecting some protection from the Lord. Correct? Those, the children are surrendered to the parents. Okay, because the expectation of protection is there. But a higher form of surrender is when there is no expectation at all. When one just considers himself as as the Lord's possession. Atmanivedana mixed with emotions of Dasya is seen in Ambarish. This is set in Bhagavatam, starting with Savai Mana Krishna Padaravinda Yoho. This mixed Atmanivedan is also stated later in the 11th canto with Dasya Natma Nivedanam. One should give oneself to me as a servant. The bhava of a dear lover mixed with Atmanivedanam is seen in Rukmini. She says, therefore, my dear Lord, I have chosen you as my husband and I surrender myself to you. Please come swiftly, O Almighty One, and make me your wife. This is Atmanivedana. In addition, it should be understood that Sakhya and other rasas could mix with Atmanivedana. Right. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada writes, Atmanivedanam, the word Atmanivedanam refers to the stage at which one who has no motive other than to serve the Lord surrenders everything to the Lord and performs his activities only to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, he considers himself as the possession of the Lord. He has no other motive, even seeking protection, but just serve the Lord only to please the Supreme Lord. Such a devotee is like a cow that is cared for by its master. When cared for by its master, a cow is not in anxiety over its maintenance. Such a cow is always devoted to its master and it never acts independently, but only for the master's benefit. Some devotees therefore consider dedication of the body to the Lord to be Atmanivedanam. And as such, in the book known as Bhakti Vivek, sometimes dedication of the soul to the Lord is called Atmanivedanam. The best examples of Atmanivedanam are found in Bali Maharaj and Ambrish Maharaj. Atmanivedanam is also sometimes found in the behavior of Rukmini Devi at Dwaraka. It's directly taken from Sri Jiva Goswami's commentary. So Prabhupada, when he's writing this. Another reference is one should offer both the sense of I and the sense of mine to Krishna. One should give up the conception of I and my and adopt the conception that I am a servant of Krishna. I accept only the remnants of Krishna's prasadam. And this body is an instrument suitable for the service of Krishna. To maintain the body exclusively with this mentality is called Atmanivedanam. So although one maintains his body, but still he's maintaining the body only with the understanding, the mentality that is it's for the service of the Lord that he's maintaining his body. So that's considered as a part of surrender. That is Atmanivedanam. So it does not mean that you surrender to the Lord and because the body and soul belongs to the Lord, therefore I will not maintain. Of course, we were discussing both the cases. There's a topmost stage where the devotee is not even concerned about the maintenance of his body. Correct? But then when we are speaking about the aspect of sadhana bhakti, now this point of to maintain the body exclusively for the service of the Lord is also considered as Atmanivedanam only. Okay, on the stage of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti who are not on that advanced level, where the surrender, where the maintenance of the body is also up to the Lord. That clear? Yes. Okay, next is offering a favorite article. Athanija Priyopaharanam. In 11th canto, Lord Krishna tells Uddhava, my dear friend, if someone offers me the best thing in his possession or anything which is very pleasing to him, he will be eternally benefited. So here also there is surrender. Because if someone offers me the best thing in his possession, it's a sacrifice. One who has the best thing in his possession, he'll be attached to it. He'll be attracted to it. Or something which says, right, or anything which is very pleasing to him. So it basically means a living entity is attached to something or very pleasing to something. And if he gives it up for the service of the Lord, then the Lord is very pleased with him. And that person will be eternally benefited. So it's a sacrifice, the act of sacrifice for the Lord, it's very pleasing to him. So Jiva Goswami comments, cha indicates, this is the verse, yadyat ishtamam loke yach chati priyam atmanah tat tan nivedayan mahyam tad anantyaya kalpate. So this cha ati priyam. So cha indicates that one should also offer what is dear to the Lord. So that which is dear to us, that should be offered, that's a sacrifice, and that which is dear to the Lord, that should be offered to him. So that's a linga, that's a anga of devotional service, a limb of devotional service. So what it means, those things which are favorable should be offered to the Lord, and unfavorable things should be given up for the sake of the Lord. So both should be there. That which is dear to us. So there are some things which are dear to us which is unfavorable to the Lord. So that also we should give up. And those things which are dear to us, which is in our possession, that also we should give up for serving the Lord. So this is this offering a favorite article. Performing all endeavors for Krishna. Atha tad arthe akhila cheshtitam. Krishnarthe akhila cheshtha. So many times you have heard Prabhupada speaking this. So everything is to be done for the sake of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. That should be the mood. In the Narada Pancharata, there is a statement of how one can act in all spheres of life for the satisfaction of the Lord. It is stated there that a person who is actually in devotional service must be engaged in all kinds of activities. Those prescribed in the revealed scriptures and also those which are accepted for livelihood. You see, there is Laukiki and there is Vaidiki. So, Cheshtha or Akhira Cheshtitam, Cheshtha or endeavor is basically meant for, or basically endeavor is for these two purposes. Srila Rupa Goswami classifies like that. It's mentioned in Narada Pancharata. One is Laukiki and one is Vaidiki. Vaidiki means prescribed duties that one performs. Dharma, Artha, like that. Those prescribed duties for each of the Varnas and Ashramas, that is Vaidiki. That one performs. That is one endeavor. And Laukiki, oh sorry, it's the other way around. Laukiki is the one which one does for his own maintenance. And Vediki is when he's engaged in the Vedic performance of sacrifice and devotional service, like this. So those prescribed in the revealed scriptures and also those which are accepted for livelihood. In other words, not only should a devotee engage himself in the prescribed duties of devotional service, which are mentioned in the revealed scriptures, which corresponds to Vaidiki, but he should also perform, which corresponds to Laukika. He should also perform the duties of his practical life in Krishna consciousness. For example, or maybe it's the other way around. Anyways, we will read a purport, a lecture from Srila Prabhupada to make it very clear. For example, a devotee who has a great establishment or factory may offer the fruits of such material possession for the service of the Lord. So that is Laukiki. Okay, means he's engaged not in the prescribed duties which are mentioned in the Vedas, but is engaged only in his self-maintenance, or rather those activities which are not actually prescribed. Opening of factories and other things and industrial enterprises is not a prescribed duty, or these are not the duties which are actually Vedic duties. Correct. So these are being maintained in Kali Yuga for one's own personal maintenance of his body. So these things are called as Laukiki. Vaidiki means those prescribed duties which are mentioned for each Varna and Ashrama, which are actually meant for satisfying the Lord, which are meant to be engaged in devotional service. So by both Laukiki as well as Vaidiki, one should satisfy the Supreme Lord. That is the goal. Okay, if he performs Varna and Ashrama duties, to his prescribed duties, he should satisfy the Lord. And if he is engaged in other types of activities which are actually not prescribed duties as such, according to technical definition, they should also be engaged in the service of the Lord. This is Krishnarthe Akila Cheshtha. Okay, so let's read this. In Srila Prabhupada, in his lecture to Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.35, he speaks about this. There are two kinds of karmas. Vaidiki means according to Vedic rituals, performance of big sacrifices, and so many other, that is called Vaidiki. And Laukiki, just like we have got good experience nowadays. There are so many activities, factories, mills, and scientific research work, so many. This is Laukiki. So Krishna does not say, yes, the Sutta Goswami does not say that simply by Vaidiki activities, big ritualistic ceremonies, you can be happy. You can be happy even by Laukiki. Laukiki means these material activities. Generally, people understand big factories nowadays or agriculture or anything. These are Laukiki. Laukiki means for the maintenance of the body. So Narad Muni recommends that Yat Atra, anything you are doing, Kriyate. Atra means in this material world, Atra. Yat Atra Kriyate Karma Bhagavat Paritoshanam. It doesn't matter that you do not understand these Vedic rituals, but you want to develop the economic position of your country by industrial enterprises. Yes, that is also good. That is also good. How? Bhagavat Paritoshanam. If it is conducted for the satisfaction of Krishna, then it is good. So our Krishna conscious movement does not say you stop anything. No. Whatever you have got liking, you can do. But Bhagavat Paritoshanam. By your work, you try to satisfy Krishna. This is our proposal. We do not say the negative, stop, no. And it is confirmed in Shastras. Atah Pumbir Dvija Shrestha. Varnashrama Vibhagasha Swanishtha Dharmasya Samsidir Haritoshanam. So again, bringing that into perspective, we are doing everything for the sake of Krishna. Okay, and we also discussed about the servitorship, where we discussed about this karmarpanam and kainkaryam. So there is a distinction. Karmarpanam is these laukiki activities which are performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, which is also called as Bhagavad Dharma only. If you remember, we discussed this on Friday. That is also taken up as devotional service. But direct devotional service is what is recommended by the Acharyas, which is kainkaryam, which is direct service, direct devotional service to the Lord. That is pure devotional service. So this is in 11th canto. One should hear, glorify, and meditate upon the wonderful transcendental activities of the Lord. One should specifically become absorbed in the appearance, activities, qualities, and holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus inspired, one should perform all of one's daily activities as an offering to the Lord. One should perform sacrifice, charity, and penance exclusively for the Lord's satisfaction. Similarly, one should chant only those mantras which glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all one's religious activities should be performed as an offering to the Lord. Whatever one finds pleasing or enjoyable, he should immediately offer to the Supreme Lord. And even his wife, children, home, and very life air, he should offer at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, these two verses indicate that all such material opulences accumulated by one's previous karma should be used as an offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's fame, education, wealth, and so on should all be used to carry out the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? There are some things which one possesses or which one attains because of his previous karma. So those should be offered to the Lord. And one's fame, education, and wealth, and so on, should be used to carry out the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, tapa, austerity, means that one should observe vows such as Ekadashi Vrata, in which one fasts from grains and beans twice a month. The word japtam, this is with respect to this particular verse. Okay. Shravanam Kirtanam Dhyanam Harer Adbhuta Karmanaha Janma Karma Gunanam Cha Tadarthe Akhila Cheshtitam. Janma, Karma, Guna, everything should be done, offered to the Lord. Ishtam Dattam Tapo Japtam Vrittam Yat Chatmanah Priyam Dharan Sutan Grahan Pranan Yat Parasmai Nivedanam. So everything is given to the Lord. So it's an explanation of this verse. So Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the word Japtam refers to chanting the holy names of the Lord, such as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has further pointed out that one can offer one's wife, children, and home to the Lord by converting one's family into devotees of the Supreme Lord. Rather than becoming artificially puffed up in the pursuit of so-called status symbols, one's family should be trained to understand that they are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. And when the entire family becomes dedicated to the Lord's service, a very beautiful situation is created. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati has pointed out that if a human being is not initiated into the process of Bhagavata Dharma, he must depend upon the uncertain knowledge derived from his gross material senses. Indifferent to the sublime descriptions of the Lord's eternal appearances, pastimes, and innumerable transcendental qualities, the faithless materialist wanders about on the platform of mundane enjoyment. But if one can understand the reality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is described in authorized Vedic literature, then one should accept the order of Tridanda Sannyas, or at least one should practice restraint of the body, mind, and words, and thus become self-controlled and fixed in the absolute truth. Then all of one's desires, all the charity he gives, and his penances and chanting of mantras, in other words, his entire personality, his home, his children, his wife, and his very life air become heartfelt offerings to the Supreme Lord. When a living entity constantly hears the authorized descriptions of the Supreme Lord and dovetails all of his activities in the Lord's service, avoiding other activities, he is considered to be fixed on the platform of Bhagavata Dharma. So this is Krishnartha Akhila Cheshtha. Even maintenance of one's family, how it should be dovetailed in Lord's service is what is mentioned in this particular purport. So we have wife, children, relatives, everybody should be brought to Krishna consciousness, and then they should be maintained as servants of the Lord. Correct. Once I remember an instance. Instance means it's with respect to Srila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj. So once a person came to Gaur Kishodas Babaji. I don't remember it exactly, but he came to Babaji Maharaj and he said that it's just skipping my mind again. It's been a long time since I read this. So he asked Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj that he wants to join him as his servant or something like that. But he was a married person. Or I don't know what the question was, whether he was going to get married and he wanted to know how to become pure devotee or what it was. But then Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj replied that because your wife is a devotee, therefore you should go and serve your wife. And that is your devotional service. No, don't come here and join me. Something like that. And then after that, he never came. Because normally, the wife is considered to be the servant of the husband. Not servant, but basically she's supposed to serve. She does service to the husband. No, that's the proper way of Vedic culture. But when Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj told, he was not agreeable to that. So he said, your wife is a devotee, therefore you should serve her. But it was not acceptable to him and then left. He never came back. So that this is an instance which was narrated to show the insincerity of people who used to come to Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj. I remember this because when it's mentioned that one should bring one's wife, children, and other relatives also to Krishna consciousness, that's the service, then Grihasthas should have that mood. Not that we keep on accepting service from our wives, it's also our responsibility to give them what is required for them to take pure devotional service. So both should be there. So this is, you should not take it as an advantage that okay, we are taken to Krishna consciousness and the duties of the wives are stretched so much, then the husband is just enjoying at home, but then he's expecting his wife to serve him. But it's the husband duties also to make sure that the wife is progressing in Krishna consciousness. That is his service. Then he is doing doing Krishnarthi Akhila Cheshta. That is possible for him only when he's also engaging his wife and children in Krishna conscious activities. Not that he's thinking of himself as a master and accepting service from them. Okay, that is not proper. Right. Then being a surrendered soul. Atha Sharanapatihi. In the Haribhakti Vilas, there is the following statement about self-surrender. My dear Lord, a person who has surrendered himself onto you, who is in firm conviction that he is yours, and who actually acts in that way by his body, mind, and words, can actually relish transcendental bliss. So in Narsimha Purana, Lord Nrsimhadev says, anyone who prays onto me and takes shelter of me becomes my ward, and I protect him always from all sorts of calamities. So that is Sharanapati. Atmanivedanam is without any expectation. Sharanam Prapannosmi here means I accept you as my protector. Sharanam Praptaha means having attained the Lord as shelter. Thus, Sharanam has these two meanings, protection and shelter. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Anukalasya Sankalpa Pratikulasya Varjanam Rakshishyati iti Vishwaso Goptirtve Varanam Tatha Atmanikshepa Karpanya Shadvida Sharanagatihi. The six divisions of surrender are acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, Pratikulasya Varjanam, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, Rakshishyati iti Vishwaso, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, Goptritve Varnam Tatha, Atmanikshepa, full self-surrender, and Karpanye, humility. These are the six aspects of surrender, Sharanagati. Okay. So the last limb in this chapter is Atha Tadiyanam Sevanam. So Prabhupada writes serving trees such as Tulsi, but this Tadiyanam has a broader meaning. Tadiyanam is that which is related to the Lord, or that which is the paraphernalia of the Lord. Anything which is in relationship to the Lord, which is in connection to the Lord, in contact with the Lord, everything becomes as good as the Lord. And serving those things is a means of satisfying or pleasing Krishna. That is Tadiyanam Sevanam. And Srila Rupa Goswami specifically, he speaks about Tulsi Maharani because she is the most dearest to the Lord. He quotes from Skanda Purana and says, let me offer my respectful obeisances onto the Tulsi tree, which can immediately vanquish volumes of sinful activities. Simply by seeing or touching this tree, one can become relieved from all distresses and diseases. Simply by offering obeisances and pouring water on the Tulsi tree, one can become freed from the fear of being sent to the court of Yamaraj, the king of death who punishes the sinful. If someone sows a Tulsi tree, somewhere, certainly he becomes devoted to Lord Krishna. And when the Tulsi leaves are offered in devotion at the lotus feet of Krishna, there is full development of love of Godhead. So therefore, Tulsi. In India, all Hindus, even those not belonging to the Vaishnava group, take special care of the Tulsi tree. Even in great cities, where it is very difficult to keep a Tulsi tree, people are to be found very careful keeping this plant. They water it and offer obeisances to it. Because worship of the Tulsi tree is very important in devotion service. So Srila Prabhupada says, in this way, all the centers, that is your special business. How to grow Tulsi. It is very important task. Without Tulsi, no temple is perfect. If Tulsi does not grow, it means that there is want of devotion. This is the point. Again, from Skanda Purana, another quote, Tulsi is auspicious in all respects. Simply by seeing, simply by touching, simply by remembering, simply by praying to, simply by bowing before, simply by hearing about, and simply by sowing this tree, there is always auspiciousness. Anyone who comes in touch with the Tulsi tree in the above mentioned ways lives eternally in the Vaikuntha world. Right? So there is this reference of worshipping Tulsi Devi. Just go through this because it's very important to understand how much Tulsi Devi is important, how much we should respect her. So it was compiled from scriptures and from Srila Prabhupada's instructions. It's there in Veda base. So you can go back and read also. Tulsi's body is spiritual. Although Tulsi appears as many individual trees, she is one person. And she comes wherever she sees devotion to Krishna. Every morning, devotees should water and pray to Tulsi Devi and circumambulate her 3 times. Worship Tulsi with nice food, flowers, incense, a ghee lamp, and other traditional articles of worship. Protect the delicate Tulsi seedlings from birds and insects. It is an offense to turn the seedlings back into the soil. This manjari should not insert it into the soil like this. In places where Tulsi cannot survive the winters, when planted in the ground, provide a suitable house for her. Every day provide Tulsi fresh air, water as needed. Be careful not to water too much, and sunshine or plant lights. Neglect to care for or water Tulsi properly is a great offense. Do everything carefully. When picking Tulsi leaves, chant the following mantra. Tulsi Amrita Janmasi Sada Tvam Keshava Priya Keshavartham Chinomi Tvam Varada Bhava Shobhane. Oh Tulsi, you were born from nectar. You are always very dear to Lord Keshava. Now, in order to worship Lord Keshava, I am collecting your leaves and manjaris. Please bestow your benedictions on me. Pick only the leaves that grow next to the manjaris, flowers, and the leaves that are ready to drop. They will turn a pale color, not the new green ones. Pick the manjaris as soon as they blossom. Avoid letting them go to the seed, which takes much energy from the plant that can be used to make more leaves and flowers for Krishna's service. Right? If you take manjaris, don't allow the seeds to go in the same area where the plant is already growing. You want can put it in another place, or else the plant from which the manjari came that will become weak. If you put seeds there itself. Okay. Pick the leaves one at a time with your fingertips. Don't shake or stroke the branch and damage healthy leaves. Pick with care and attention. Avoid using cutting tools. So don't use scissors. You should not use it, only with hands we should do. Never cut or prune Tulsi Devi. This is a great offense. Remove dead branches if absolutely necessary. If branches obstruct a passageway, tie them back, but don't cut them. To maintain these plants, we have this cutting knives. So those should not be used for Tulsi. Pick Tulsi leaves and flowers in the morning, never at night from sunset to sunrise. Because it's understood that she's taking rest. And when she's taking rest, we should not disturb her. So therefore, flowers should be picked only in the morning. And also, it is said that Tulsi leaves should not be plucked during Dwadashi because she has fasted on Ekadashi and Dwadashi she is weak. So therefore, she should not be disturbed on Dwadashi also. So whatever is required for Dwadashi, we take it on the day before itself. So that's also there. Never use chemical sprays on Tulsi. Collect leaves once in the morning for worshipping Krishna and for putting on the plates of food to be offered to him. Put at least one leaf on each preparation. Never pick tulsi leaves for any other purpose than to offer to the Lord. Lord Krishna likes garlands of tulsi leaves. Tulsi leaves mixed with sandalwood pulp and placed on the lotus feet of the Lord is the topmost worship. Do not place tulsi leaves on the feet of anyone other than Lord Vishnu in his various forms. Srimati Radharani can be given a tulsi leaf in her hand for offering to Lord Krishna. Krishna accepts even dry tulsi leaves. Tulsi wood taken after plant has fully dried or taken tulsi wood taken after plant has fully dried naturally can be used to carve worship paraphernalia such as beads. Place leftover tulsi wood within the earth. Never use tulsi leaves or flowers to make tea or juices even after they have been offered to Krishna. It's a great offense to cook or heat tulsi or to use her for mundane purposes such as medicines and ointments. So even those products which you buy from outside should make sure that tulsi leaves are not there, or else it's offensive. Never cut down or pull up living tulsi plants. This is a great offense. Avoid stepping on Tulsi Devi's shadow. One should not even step on Tulsi Devi's shadow. Tulsi Devi is very, very dear to the Lord. Therefore, most important is to spread her with love and devotion. Benefits of worshipping Tulsi Devi. Although we can never fully describe the glories of Tulsi Devi, an eternal associate of Lord Krishna, the scriptures give us a hint of the value of worshipping her. The following list comes from the Padma Purana. Tulsi is the essence of all devotional activities. The leaves, flowers, roots, bark, branches, trunk, and shade of Tulsi Devi are all spiritual. One who with devotion applies the paste of Tulsi wood to the deity of Krishna will always live close to Krishna. One who puts mud from the base of the Tulsi tree on his body and worships the deity of Lord Krishna gets the result of 100 days worship each day. So it's also said that when Gopi Chandan is not available, then one can take the mud from the root of Tulsi tree and then he can put that as a tilak, And that's perfectly authentic. That's as good as Gopi Chandan Tilak. One who offers a Tulsi Manjari to Lord Krishna gets the benefit of offering all other varieties of flowers, and he goes to the abode of Krishna. So even if because of some circumstances flowers are not available, one can always offer Tulsi and Manjaris. One who sees or comes near a house or garden where the Tulsi plant is present gets rid of all his sinful reactions, including that of killing a Brahmana, just by seeing a house or a garden where Tulsi plant is present. Lord Krishna happily lives in the house, town, or forest where Tulsi Devi is present. A house where Tulsi Devi is present never falls on bad times, and it becomes purer than all holy places. The fragrance of Tulsi Devi purifies all who smell it. Lord Krishna, it's an example, right? We have seen the Kumaras. Lord Krishna and all the demigods live in a house where mud from the base of the Tulsi tree is found, which means even if the Tulsi plant is not there, but just the mud from the base of the Tulsi tree is there in someone's house, Lord Krishna and all demigods live in that house. Without Tulsi leaves, Lord Krishna does not like to accept flowers, food, or sandalwood paste. One who worships Lord Krishna daily with Tulsi leaves attains the result of all kinds of austerity, charity, and sacrifice. In fact, he has no other duties to perform, and he has realized the essence of the scriptures. One who puts into his mouth or on his head Tulsi leaves that have been offered to Lord Krishna attains Lord Krishna's abode. In Kali Yuga, one who worships, remembers plants, keeps, or performs kirtan before Tulsi burns up all sinful reactions and quickly attains Lord Krishna's abode. One who worships Lord Krishna with Tulsi leaves releases all his ancestors from the realm of birth and death. One who remembers the glories of Tulsi or tells others about them will never take birth again. Right? So these are the glories of Tulsi Devi. So we should be very careful in worshipping her. Right. So chapter 12, further aspects of transcendental service. So this is the last chapter where we'll be discussing the last 11 limbs of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Okay. So hearing the revealed scriptures. Atha Shastrasya. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, any book which gives enlightenment in the matter of advancing in devotional service is considered to be a revealed scripture. Srila Madhvacharya has also defined revealed scripture as referring to books such as the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, Upanishads, Vedanta, and any other literature written in pursuance of such revealed scriptures. There is a notion among certain sections that Shastra means only Shrutis, and Smriti, like the Puranas, Itihasas, and Dharma Shastras, they are not authentic. They are written by human beings who are conditioned. So, therefore, only those things which are coming from the breathing of the Supreme Lord, which is the Shrutis, they should be accepted as the perfect one. And the other, the Smritis and Puranas, should not be accepted. Basically, this Arya Samajis, they say this, that only Shrutis and no Smriti, like this. But Sri Madhvacharya explains that not only Shruti and Smriti, but even those works which are written by Acharyas, which are in line with the authentic scriptures, the Shruti and Smriti, should also be considered as Shastra only. So, therefore, all the works of the liberated soul, the great Acharyas, is also considered as scriptures. And this is, we understand this in ISKCON that Shastra for us is Prabhupada's books. Because whatever he writes, it's basically most of the things when we're discussing Nectar of Devotion itself, several points Srila Prabhupada writes direct translation of different verses from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. It's all in English, but then we referred to many of them. We discussed this, that many of them were directly from scriptures. And through those verses, which he explains in English language, he's making a point or he's explaining different aspects of pure devotional service. So Prabhupada's books are directly in line with what pure devotional service is, or what is the ultimate goal of the Shastra. And he's following the previous Acharyas who also have the same goal, or their works are also in pursuance with the Vedic scriptures. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was here, he did not write much. He gave us only Shikshashtaka. And then he asked his disciples, the Goswamis, to compile books to establish the parampara, basically. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, I think we discussed this during the initial class of Nectar of Devotion. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes, although he had Shastric discussions with different people like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, with Prakashananda Saraswati, like that. But devotional service at that point, was still considered to be mostly emotional or sentimental, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself expressed intense emotions, Mahabhava, for love for Krishna. So, to make sure that devotional parampara of pure devotional service, which was inaugurated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it becomes authentic and becomes a perfect system or institutionalized. So he desired the Goswamis to write scriptures expounding pure devotional service based on the references from Shrutis, Smritis, and other Vedic literatures. So that's why in Rupa and in Rupa this work Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu we will see, or we have seen actually many of them. So many quotes have been given from Shrimad Bhagavatam, from Skanda Purana, from Shiva Purana, from Linga Purana, and also he quotes from Sridhar Swami's commentary. And today also we saw he's giving a verse from Yamunacharya. Correct. So Rupa Goswami has taken this, that scripture or Shastra or perfect explanation of the goal of Shastra is coming down. It's there in the Shastra itself, and it comes down in the form of the Acharyas in the Parampara, and those also given by the spiritual master of that devotee. So all of them should be considered as Shastra. That is the point. And yeah, so just to conclude that because of the works of the Goswamis, then this parampara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara, it is authentic, it's perfect. It is, there is no, or rather, because of these works only, we can say that the influence of Sahajiyaism or other apasampradayas is less or can be minimized or can be defeated. Otherwise, it will just become a, even no, even other, I'll not say sampradayas, but other sects of Hindu Dharma, so to speak, they also accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they say, oh, he was a pure great saint and he expressed bhakti. But he was just a great saint. They did not establish Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a supreme personality of Godhead, and that it's a line, it's a sampradayic line that is coming from him. They say he was a saint, just like other saints are there, he was also a saint, and it's not actually an authentic parampara which is propagating the message of pure devotional service. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood was understood by the Goswamis, specifically Rupa Goswami, and he explained all these things in terms of Shastra. And also, if you see his Laghu Bhagavatamrita also, it is completely based on Shastra, which explains the signs of Krishna. Specifically, it's all about signs of Krishna and his devotees. Krishna, his various expansions, and his devotees. So these are the two subject matters of Laghu Bhagavatamrita, where he explains everything with respect to Shastra and gives conclusive understanding of Krishna consciousness process. Right. So this is so Shastra means all these things put together. In Skanda Purana, there is this statement: a person who is constantly engaged in reading literature and enunciating the cultivation of Vaishnava devotional service is always glorious in human society. And certainly Lord Krishna becomes pleased with him. A person who very carefully keeps the literature at home and offers respectful obeisances to it becomes freed from all sinful reactions and ultimately becomes worshipable by the demigods. And Vaishnavani, we see this, Vaishnavani to Shastrani, ye Shrinvanti Pathanti cha, one who hears it and one who studies this. Shrinvanti Pathanti cha, Dhanyaste Manava Loke. No, he's Dhanya, he is fortunate in this human society, because by that Tesham Krishna Prasidati, by that the Lord is completely satisfied. Vaishnavani to Shastrane, ye Archayanti Grihe Naraha, one who worships these Shastras. Sarva Papa Vinirmukta Bhavanti Suravanditaha, one who worships the Shastras, he becomes worshipable by the demigods, and all his sinful reactions are, or he overcomes, or he's delivered from all his sinful reactions. So, to worship, to do Arti, offering the 5 items, 5 or 7 items to Srimad Bhagavatam or the books itself is perfect. So even if one does not have an altar, deity, no pictures, nothing, just by worshipping Bhagavad Gita as it is or Srimad Bhagavatam, he will attain the benefit of doing Archana. Okay, it's as good as that. It is also said to Narad Muni, my dear Narada, a person who writes Vaishnava literature and keeps such literature at home has Lord Narayana always residing in his house. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 13th chapter, it is stated, Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. Sarva Vedanta Sarami Sri Bhagavatam Ishyate. tad rasamrita triptasya nanyatra syad ratih kvachit. Any person who has become attached in some way or other to the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam cannot have any taste for reading any other literature. Right? So this is it's a test for us. Our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam should leave us with no taste for reading any other literature. In other words, a person who has relished the transcendental bliss of Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be satisfied with mundane writings. Right? Okay. So actually, specifically, okay, just one thing I'll mention. From now onwards, no, we will see that some of the limbs of devotional service are repetitive. You might find that if you have read this chapter, you would notice that here it says Atha Shastrasya, hearing the revealed scripture where Srila Rupa Goswami specifically quotes about Srimad Bhagavatam. But then another Anga will come when we discuss in the last five, that one is recommended to read Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also a limb of devotional service. So what's the difference? It's repeated. Yes, this is repetitive in that sense. That Rupa Goswami, when he's speaking about revealed scriptures, he gives the topmost revealed scripture is Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, one should study Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is there. But then there's a limb of devotional service also, which specifically speaks about reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So here, Shastrasya, as mentioned, it refers to all the other literatures as well. So hearing or reading of Ramayana, Mahabharata, all the Puranas, Upanishads, which are in pursuance of the Vaishnava understanding, Vaishnava Siddhanta, that is what is mentioned here, and specifically Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the limb. This is the 54th Anga of devotional service. But later, it will mention specifically about reading only Srimad Bhagavatam. Similarly, we will see another Anga as residing in Mathura and living in Mathura. Okay. So we'll see the difference there. When it comes to residing in Mathura, one who comes in contact with Mathura, even thinking about it, seeing it, remembering it, touching it, he gets tremendous benefit. So that is that aspect of residing in Mathura. Because one who thinks about Mathura, he's residing in Mathura. One who sees Mathura, he's residing in Mathura. When he comes in contact with it, touches it, or remembers it, anything, then he's in contact with Mathura. He's residing in Mathura. So that is one Anga devotional service. But later, Sri Rupa Goswami will always say living in Mathura. Mathura Vas, he will specifically mention. So this is specifically physically living in Mathura Dham. Okay, and both are considered as Anga of devotional service. But there's a subtle difference between these two also. So we will see. Here it's Atha Shastraya, Shastrasya, and then he's mentioning about Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is in reference in 1341, purport Srila Prabhupada writes, specifically to Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Vyasadeva is the great authority, and the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam being so important, he delivered the message first to his great son Srila Shukdev Goswami. It is compared to the cream of the milk. Vedic literature is like the milk ocean of knowledge. Cream or butter is the most palatable essence of milk, and so also is Srimad Bhagavatam, for it contains all palatable, instructive, and authentic versions of different activities of the Lord and his devotees. Palatable means it's acceptable, it's very relishable, it's acceptable, it's instructive, which can mold our life, and it is authentic versions of different activities of the Lord and his devotees. There is no gain, however, in accepting the message of Bhagavatam from the unbelievers, atheists, and professional reciters who make a trade of Bhagavatam for the layman. It was delivered to Sri Sukdev Goswami, and he had nothing to do with the Bhagavata business. He did not have to maintain family expenses by such trade. Srimad Bhagavatam should therefore be received from the representative of Shukdev, who must be in the renounced order of life without family encumbrance. Milk is undoubtedly very good and nourishing, but when it is touched by the mouth of a snake, it is no longer nourishing. Rather, it becomes a source of death. Similarly, those who are not strictly in the Vaishnava discipline should not make a business of this Bhagavatam and become a cause of spiritual death for so many hearers. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the purpose of all the Vedas is to know Him, Lord Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is Lord Sri Krishna Himself in the form of recorded knowledge. Therefore, it is the cream of all the Vedas and it contains all historical facts of all times in relation with Sri Krishna. It is actually the essence of all histories. Right. So when Shukdev Goswami he came to that place where Maharaj Parikshit was fasting just by the inspiration of the Lord. And in Bhagavatam, we will see after he finished Srimad Bhagavatam, he just got up and left. He was not waiting for any recognition. He was not waiting for Parikshit Maharaj to go or nothing. He finished speaking Srimad Bhagavatam and then he just left completely detached from all these things that was happening. So he was not into this mundane rituals of associating with any uh, so-called worldly minded people, because that sabha, Parikshit Maharaj is of course pure devotee, but the sabha, there were so many people who were not completely pure, and Shukdev Goswami had nothing to do with them. He came there for speaking Shrimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and after that he just left. He did not stay there. How can, so this is from Jaiva Dharma. This is Jaiva Dharma, this like it comes in a story format, and there are lots of conversations between this question and then there's answer. So there's a very senior devotee who answers to different questions to a new person who has come and joined that ashram or that mutt, like this. So like that, all the philosophy is explained in Jaiva Dharma in that story format. So that is very attractive for readers to read. So this is in part 8, this one chapter. So a devotee asks a question: how can the scriptures be given proper respect? The 44th limb. So Raghunath Das Babaji replies, he's a character in that book. Texts which determine, analyze, and establish pure devotion to the Supreme Lord are Shastra. Among the many Shastras, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the foremost, since it is a refined essence of the Vedanta. Those elevated saints who are steeped in the immortal ambrosia of the Bhagavata Purana, that is the Srimad Bhagavatam, are not attracted to any other scripture. Right. So proper respect to Shastra is respecting Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's the essence of all the Vedas. 55. Atha Mathurayaha. In the Varaha Purana, there is a statement praising the residential quarters of Mathura. Lord Varaha tells the men of earth, any person who becomes attracted to places other than Mathura will certainly be captivated by the illusory energy. In the Brahmanda Purana, it is said that all the results of traveling on all the pilgrimages within the three worlds can be achieved simply by touching the holy land of Mathura. In many Shastras, it is said that simply by hearing, remembering, glorifying, desiring, seeing, or touching the land of Mathura, one can achieve all desires. Okay, so it's not specifically speaking about living in Mathura, but just by hearing about Mathura Dham, just by remembering, glorifying, even desiring, seeing, or touching the land of Mathura, one can achieve all desires. Okay, desiring to go to Mathura itself is a limb of devotion service. Remembering Mathura is a limb of devotion service. We go on a yatra, after coming back to Salem, you remember what you did in that yatra, that is a limb of devotion service. You make progress. Jiva Goswami comments, the meaning of prekshita, seen, is to be seen from a distance, going close by, though not contacting directly. Shrita means accept. So this is the verse, right? Shruta, one who hears about Mathura Dham. Smrita, one who remembers. Kirtita, one who glorifies. Vanchita, one who desires. And Prekshita means seeing from a distance. Gata, one who goes there. Sprishta, one who touches it. Shrita, Shrita means accepting as one's shelter. And Sevita, one who, Sevita means being served with activities such as cleaning the place. Cha, all these activities, Mathurabhishta Dandranam, iti khyatam Puraneshu navistara bhijyochyate. So one can achieve all perfection by just doing these things, and which have been mentioned in the Puranas. Iti khyatam Puraneshu. All the Puranas speak about the glories of Mathura Dham. So Mathura means Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan, Radhakund, Shamkund, even Navadip Dham also, Mayapur. So all this is all transcendental abodes of the Lord. This is Mathura Dham. So again in Jaima Dharma, how should Mathura, the birthplace of Krishna, be glorified? The 55th limb, Raghunath Babaji says, here, remember, glorify the transcendental qualities of Mathura. Have a desire to visit Mathura on pilgrimage. Smear one's body with the dust of Mathura. Reside in Mathura and serve the sacred land. All these activities fulfill one's most coveted wishes. Equally significant spiritually is Sri Mayapur Dham. Right? Then 56 is rendering service to devotees. Atha Vaishnavanam Sevanam. In Padma Purana, there's a nice statement praising the service of the Vaishnavas or devotees. And that scripture, Lord Shiva tells Parvati, it's a very famous verse, Aradhananam Sarvesham, Vishnu Aradhanam Param, Tasmat Parataram Devi, Tadiyanam Samarchanam. So this again, Tadiyanam, those who are related to the Lord, those who are dear to the Lord, if you worship them, the Lord is pleased. My dear Parvati, there are different methods of worship, and out of all such methods, the worship of the Supreme Person is considered to be the highest. But even higher than the worship of the Lord is the worship of the Lord's devotees. यत्सेवया भागवत कूटस्थस्य मधुद्विषः प्रतिरासो भवेत् तीव्रः पादयोर व्यसनार्दनः. This is from third canto. Let me become a sincere servant of the devotees, because by serving them one can achieve unalloyed devotional service onto the lotus feet of the Lord. The service of devotees diminishes all miserable material conditions and develops within one a deep devotional love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By rendering service to a pure devotee of the Lord, one attains all perfection. We discussed about this when we were seeing the first three limbs of sadhana bhakti: Guru Padashraya, then Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam, and Vishrambhena Guru Seva. Specifically in Vishrambhena Guru Seva, we discussed this and saw several references also about how service to spiritual master is itself complete for one to take or to attain pure love of God. In the Skanda Purana, there's a similar statement. Persons whose bodies are marked with tilak, symbolizing the conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus, and who keep the leaves of tulsi on their heads, and whose bodies are always decorated with gopi chandan, even seen once, can help the seer be relieved from all sinful activities. Correct? So, lava matra, sadhu sanga, sarva shastra kay, lava matra sadhu sanga, sarva siddhi hoy. Sadhu sanga, association with devotees, is so important. Anyway, this is another limb of association with devotees. This is rendering service to devotees. So specifically, if you render service to devotees, then there is advancement in Krishna consciousness and anga of bhakti. And association with devotees will come later. Okay, now. A similar statement is found in the first canto, 19th chapter, verse 33 of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no doubt about one's becoming freed from all reactions to sinful activities after visiting a devotee, or touching his lotus feet, or giving him a sitting place. Even by remembering the activities of such a Vaishnava, one becomes purified, along with one's whole family. And what then can be said of rendering direct service to him? In Adi Purana, there is the following statement by Lord Krishna himself addressed to Arjuna. My dear Partha, one who claims to be my devotee is not so. Only a person who claims to be the devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. No one can approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. One must approach him through his pure devotees. So this is the principle. One cannot approach Krishna directly. They may claim to be devotees of Krishna, to be in bhava, to be having affection for Krishna, that whatever we do, we are always doing for Krishna. We will not chant the holy names in rounds and beats, because 24 hours a day, only Krishna's name is going in my mind. Like that, so many people speak. But then, if you do not surrender to a pure devotee and then do service to him, then Krishna cannot be approached just by our own endeavors. Okay. There might be some benefit, but then they have to take shelter of the pure devotee. Therefore, in the system of Vaishnava activities, the first duty is to accept a devotee as spiritual master and then render service onto him. So, although in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was speaking to Arjuna directly, but then what did he say? What is the recommendation he gave? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashana sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanina sattvadarshinaha. So, you approach a person who knows all these things. Don't think that because you have approached me directly, that is the standard. If you want to come to me, you have to come to me through my devotees only. This is the point. Okay. And you just see this. Yavanti Bhagavad Bhaktir Angani Kathitaniha Prayastavanti Tad Bhakta Bhakterapi Buddha Viduhu. All the angas of bhakti described in relation to the Lord are also angas in relation to the devotees of the Lord. This is the conclusion of the wise. Which means all the 64 angas of devotional service can be applicable practically to the devotees as well. This is the meaning. Srila Rupa Goswami affirms that all the quotations given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu from different scriptures are accepted by the great acharyas and devotees of the Lord. Okay, this is Srila Prabhupada's presentation. So what does it mean to serve the Vaishnavas, the 56th limb? The Vaishnavas are very dear to Sri Krishna. By serving them, a person attains bhakti to the Supreme Lord. The Shastras declare that the worship of Sri Vishnu is supreme amongst all varieties of worship, but even higher than the worship of Sri Vishnu is the worship of the servants of Vishnu, the Vaishnavas. This is from Amritavani, where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's writings are compiled like questions and answers. So this question is asked: how important is Vaishnava Seva to those who wish to chant purely? People should not make a show of worshipping the Lord while remaining averse to serving devotees living in the matha. A mutt contains all the ingredients for the Lord's service. Simply by serving the mutt's residents, we become qualified to chant the holy name. That is, our taste for chanting will increase. If instead we remain absorbed in serving materialistic relatives, we will never learn to chant Hari's holy name. If we remain busy in the service of family members while remaining indifferent to serving Hari, Guru, and the Vaishnavas, we will never become inclined towards chanting. To induce us to chant Krishna's name, Sri Gaurangadev, the combined form of Sri Radha Krishna, appeared in this world. If we show no interest in chanting and thereby disregard his teachings, we will never attain auspiciousness. As confirmed by Rishabdev, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahar Vimuktehe. One must try to understand Krishna by serving a devotee. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila. Kalidas was standing outside the door, expecting the remnants of food from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Knowing this, Mahaprabhu gave an indication to Govinda. Govinda understood all the indications of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, he immediately delivered the remnants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's food to Kalidas. Taking the remnants of the food of Vaishnavas is so valuable that it induced Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to offer Kalidas his supreme mercy. Therefore, giving up hatred and hesitation, try to eat the remnants of the food of Vaishnavas, for you will thus be able to achieve your desired goal of life. The remnants of food offered to Lord Krishna are called Mahaprasadam. And after the same Mahaprasadam has been taken by a devotee, the remnants are elevated to Mahaprasadam. The dust of the feet of a devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of food left by a devotee are three very powerful substances. By rendering service to these three, one attains the supreme goal of ecstatic love for Krishna. In all the revealed scriptures, this is already declared again and again. Therefore, my dear devotees, please hear from me, for I insist again and again. This is Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. These are all just translations of these verses from 55 to 63. So he's pleading to us that please hear from me, for I insist again and again. Please keep faith in these three and render service to them without hesitation. From these three, one achieves the highest goal of life, ecstatic love for Krishna. This is the greatest mercy of Lord Krishna. The evidence is Kalidas himself. So what are these three? Dust of the feet of a devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of the food left by a devotee. So in this case, devotee means pure devotee. Okay. Serving the Lord according to one's position. So it's Atha Yatha Vaibhava Mahotsavo. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement that one should perform the ceremonies for the Lord according to one's financial position. Everyone should observe the different ceremonies and celebrations of the Lord by all means. So Yatha Vaibhava Mahotsava. Yatha Vaibhava means according to your own means, one should observe festivals for the Lord. Mahotsava. It is serving the Lord according to one's position. So again from Jayodharma. How does one perform ceremonies in glorification of the Lord according to one's financial position? The 57th limb. Purchase ingredients for offerings to the Lord according to one's means. After worshipping the Lord and offering him delicacies, his pure devotees, the saintly Vaishnavas, must be served prasadam to their full satisfaction. This is known as Mahotsava, a grand celebration. It is the best form of celebration in the world. Again, this is from Bhakti Aloka, chapter 10. The practitioner should hold festivals according to his capacity. Organizing festivals in the association of devotees is a prominent activity. However, one should be careful not to associate with non-devotees in the course of holding such festivals. There is a need of organizing festivals on the occasion of the Lord's appearance day. One should maintain love and devotion while serving the deity. Being attached to the impersonal aspect of the Lord, foolish people without proper consideration disrespect the deity. But if they associate with devotees and properly consider, then they will see the need for serving the deity. So temple means festivals. Okay. And see Sri Vaishnava temples, out of the 365 days, they have festival for what? 320 days or something. So they always have festivals, and every evening the Lord Utsav Murti will go out for procession and so many things. So it's like glorification, celebrating the Lord. That Krishna is there, and throughout one's whole life, year after year after year after year, the only activity is glorifying the Lord. This is the Vaikuntha mood. So you can see, Vaikuntha does not just mean that the Lord is there sitting and everybody is serving him. The glorification of Lord itself is such blissful because it's festival. So festivals are always going on in Vaikuntha Loka also. The Lord is just not sitting on the throne and the devotees are serving him, taking care of him. Not like that. But he reciprocates with them also. But the prominent bhava is dasya, is that of service, but the reciprocation is there which gives tremendous bliss to the living entities, to the liberated living entities in Vaikuntha Loka. Because it's festivals. Every day, it's Nityotsavam. It's always festival like this. So that should be, now if we do the same kind of festivals every day within the temple, then you go, you automatically get liberated, you go there and do the same thing. So we're practicing here what we're going to do in the spiritual world. Actually, we have seen in many places, Prabhupada in a lecture, he says, actually we have seen in many places, a rich man has got deity. The other day we went to a place, the deity is there, but the deity is not worshipped. The deity is not offered anything. That is not good. That man is very rich man. According to his position, one must offer prepared foodstuff, distribute prasadam. Not that. Generally, the impersonalists, they do so. There are many big temples, big deities, but the deities offer little ilaichi anna. Okay, little ilaichis, that's all. Dry fruits. That is not good. If you establish deity, you must worship to the best capacity of your possession. That is deity worship. So no compromises. Right. Next is performing devotional service in Kartik month. Atha Urja Daro. Urja Vrata. You have heard of this. One of the most important of these ceremonial functions is called Urja Vrata. So this is a continuation of Mahotsava. You see, Yatha Vaibhava Mahotsava. And the most important festival is this observing of Urja Vrata. It's a ceremonial function. Urja Vrata is observed in the month of Kartik, October, November, especially in Vrindavan. There is a specific program for temple worship of the Lord in his Damodar form. Damodar refers to Krishna as being bound with rope by his mother Yashoda. It is said that just as Lord Damodar is very dear to his devotees, so the month known as Damodar or Kartik is also very dear to them. Shaji Goswami comments. The month is affectionate just as Damodara is affectionate. Thus, a little service to Damodara becomes multiplied if performed during that month. So, therefore, it's very special. Uru Karaka. When a magnanimous person takes compassion upon one who has a heavy debt, means he owes something, a lots of debt. He owes a lot of money to somebody, but he's a magnanimous person. So he considers the small payment to be substantial and thus liberates the debtor from his liability. If you're not able to pay, you pay only a little portion of it and that's it. It's okay. You don't have to pay everything. Similarly, the month of Damodara considers a very small practice of bhajan performed with respectful attitude to be very great and bestows the invaluable wealth of bhakti towards Bhagavan Sri Damodara. It takes what is meager and makes it significant. That's called Uru Karaka. It makes small things into big. That's why it's Urja Vrata. Srila Vishwanath Thakur comments, just as Damodara is known to be affectionate to the devotees, similarly the month of Damodara is affectionate and yields great results for a little service. Taking the excuse of little service as some sort of huge debt, the month generally wipes out the debt with great rewards. The word Urja literally means power, strength, energy, or vigor. Right? Urja, it's called Urja in Sanskrit and in Hindi also. Urja means power. Srimati Radhika is the energy of Lord Krishna, and therefore Urja refers to her. To worship Sri Radha Damodar by observing the limbs of bhakti in a regulated manner in this month of Kartik is called Urjadara, or in other words, giving respect, Adara, Adar, to Urja, Srimati Radhika. Urja is also called Shakti. The goddess who presides over this month is known as Urjeshwari. Urjeshwari is another name of Srimati Radhika. The execution of devotional service during Urja Vrata in the month of Kartik is especially recommended to be performed at Mathura. This system is still followed by many devotees. They go to Mathura or Vrindavan and stay there during the month of Kartik, specifically to perform devotional services during this period. In the Padma Purana, it is said, the Lord may offer liberation or material happiness to a devotee, but after some devotional service has been executed, particularly in Mathura during the month of Kartik, the devotees want only to attain pure devotional service unto the Lord. So even if there is some material desire in performing devotional service affected by karma and gyan, if one goes to Mathura and performs devotional service during the month of Kartik, his heart is completely cleansed and he only wants to attain pure devotional service. His goal becomes very clear. The purport is that the Lord does not award devotional service to ordinary persons who are not serious about it. But even such unserious persons who execute devotional service according to the regulative principles during the month of Kartik and within the jurisdiction of Mathura in India are very easily awarded the Lord's personal service. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada writes in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord by his will become obliged to desire of his devotees. No one could make Lord Krishna stay at Hastinapur when he decided to start for Dwaraka. But the simple request of King Yudhishthir that the Lord remained there for a few days there was immediately effective. This signifies that the power of King Yudhishthir was loving affection, which the Lord could not deny. The Almighty God is thus conquered only by loving service and nothing else. He is fully independent in all his dealings, but he voluntarily accepts obligations by the loving affection of his pure devotees. So it's not about going to Mathura during Kartik month and doing things mechanically. Okay, one should understand the glories of performing devotional service in Kartik month in Mathura and should develop a desire to render pure devotional service to the Lord. Sri Jiva Goswami says this eligibility lies in the independence of bhakti of any this eligibility lies in the independence of bhakti of any other desire excepting desire for bhakti itself. But even if one is not thus eligible for the blessings of bhakti, such eligibility is easily and immediately attained if one observes Kartika Vrata in Mathura. That is, if Lord Damodar is worshipped Mathura in the month of Kartik. Okay, so there is one other reference where Srila Prabhupada he recounts that when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati he went to Radha Kund during the month of Kartik, and when the Babajis around they heard that Siddhanta Saraswati is going to give a lecture series in Radha Kund, they thought, okay, he's obviously a great devotee and he will speak about all the Rasika topics there. But Siddhanta Saraswati he started speaking on Upanishads. And he gave brief, not brief, but elaborate commentary on Upanishads during this Kartik month on the banks of Radha Kund. So initially, some Babajis used to come, and then after that, gradually, they thought some Rasika topics would be discussed, but nothing was discussed. It's Upanishads basically, on following the principles, on understanding the absolute truth, on the position of the living entity as part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is the supreme personality of God. He's not impersonal, he's personal. All these different topics Siddhanta Saraswati was discussing, and it was not attractive to these Babajis. So gradually, the strength of attending lectures gradually started to dwindle. And his disciples, Siddhanta Saraswati's disciples, they told to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati that these Babas used to come, but now they are not coming. And even other devotees also, they don't seem very enlightened with the discussion of Upanishads on the bank of Radha Kund. So Siddhanta Saraswati said, they are not living in Radha Kund, they are living in Naraka Kund because they do not know what living in Radha Kund means. It means to understand who is Krishna, to understand Krishna as the absolute truth, as the supreme enjoyer. But these Babajis, they are just enjoying themselves by having company of women. It can be seen even now also. In Radhakund, if you go, there are so many small huts and ashrams. You see that Babajis are living, and then they have these sevikas, these women who will serve them. So they are living in Narakund. They cannot. What they should listen is actually this. Oh, this is my commentary. Okay, Siddhanta Saraswati did not say that. But what these Babajis are supposed to listen is to these lectures of Upanishads from Siddhanta Saraswati. And that would be the real beneficial, or that will be the most beneficial to them, not living in Radhakund and pretending that they are on the highest level. So when we go, what's the point? The point is when we go to Mathura or Vrindavan or to Mayapur during this month, the attitude should be to render devotional service, to gain or to cultivate pure devotional service. Not to think that because we are doing there is this such kind of glorifications are mentioned, and we are going to be there, and just by chanting 2 rounds, I have completed 16 rounds. No, that's not the point. The point is that you do intensify your service. Not that small devotional service, it's equal to big devotional service. That's not the point. So the attitude should be proper. So therefore, clarity on Sambandha Gyan, Abhidaya Gyan, everything should be proper, should be perfect. That is the point. Or else we'll also be living in Vrindavan, but will not be living in Vrindavan. We'll be outside, superficially. living. Okay, so I think we can stop here. It's 9. So we have from 59 to 64. We have 6 more angas to discuss. So tomorrow we can discuss the final 5 and 13th chapter also, which is the 5 potent forms of devotional service, the last 5 angas. So we'll see references of how Srila Prabhupada, he stressed on these 5 in different of his writings and acharyas also. So we'll see the references. And we will see if we can start with 14. 14th chapter is devotional qualification, where it's an important chapter because it will speak about practical things. The concept of Phalgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya is discussed in this particular chapter. So we'll see if we can start with 14, and then 14th will be the last chapter on Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So after we have discussed all this, then the 14th chapter will tell about the proper mood or the qualification of execution of all these different aspects of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And then from then on, 15th chapter on, it's Raganuga Sadhana and so on. Okay, so you have any questions of what we discussed? Most of it was reading today, so should be very clear. Yes, which one? Sorry. Worshipping cows. Does it come in devotional service? Yeah. Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Worshipping those who are dear to Lord. We discussed, I think, worshipping cows was there. Um, there is a limb, there's an anga of devotional service when we were discussing. At that time also Srila Prabhupada wrote, worshipping of Ashwatha tree, worshipping of Tulsi, worshipping of Amalaki trees, of cows and Brahmanas. These five are a limb of devotional service. Comes in the first list of first 10. You remember Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we have this 20 and then we have 44. The first 10 are things that should be done. And I think the 7th one is worshipping Ashwatha tree. And while explaining that in the 7th chapter, Rupa Goswami says that these 5 worshipping of cows, Brahmanas, Ashwatha tree, which is the Ashwatha tree and Tulsi and Amalaki, Amla trees. These 5 are considered to be a limb of devotional service. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Laukiki and Vaidiki, yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. So the question is that we spoke about these two, Krishnartha Akila Cheshta, right? I think that under that topic we discussed this. Karmarpanam is, we discussed on, these two are related. I'll just see. Okay. See, Karmarpanam and Kainkaryam, that is in the servitorship, Dasyam, and performing all endeavors for Krishna is where we discussed. Krishnartha Akila Cheshtam, there are two types of activities, Laukiki and Vaidika. Okay. And as we discussed here, Laukiki are those things which one does for maintaining himself, for his livelihood. Okay, those activities. So the question is, a person who say has a factory and then he is engaged in this kind of activities, the results of these activities should be offered to the Lord. Okay, so that is performing works for the Lord like this. And some people say career as devotion service. So how do we distinguish, or what is understanding, proper understanding between these two? There are different levels. Okay, there are different levels. One is uh, that a person is attached to his work. Okay, and he wants to have, or he wants to enjoy his senses, so to speak. Okay, let's put it bluntly, that he has material desires, and but he also wants to perform devotional service. Okay, he knows that. See, there can be multiple levels. Okay, let me go on by one. One is a person is there, he's working, he's he has material desires, he wants to fulfill it, and he uses devotional service to fulfill his material desires. Okay, that is one level. Then there's another devotee who has material desires, who want to fulfill material desires, but he knows the goal of life is pure devotional service. Okay, so the first level person is also engaged in devotional service. The second level person is also engaged in devotional service. Okay, but he has material desires also. So this is a mixed devotee. Okay, the first person you can call as a karma yogi, because some connection is there with the Lord. Then the second one you can call it mixed karma mishra bhakti, where his bhakti is prominent, or bhakti is prominent for him, but then he also has this material desires to fulfill, which he wants to fulfill. Okay, so that level, but then whatever result he gets, he engages some of it in devotional service also. Then another is when one is working only for serving Krishna. Okay, so he may be engaged in activities, he may be engaged in the so-called fruitive activities only, but whatever result he gets, he gives it only for Krishna's service. He does not keep anything for himself. Okay, during Siddhanta Saraswati's time, I forgot the name of his disciple, that devotee was there. And he, although he was working, he was a professor, I think. He was a professor in college. Although he was working, whatever salary, whatever he used to get, he used to give it to his spiritual master. He said, I'm working only for you, everything is for you. And if you want to give me something, you give me something. Or else I don't want anything. Everything is for you only. I'm your disciple. What am I supposed to do with this money? I'm working, everything is for the propagation of this movement. So everything is for you. Like this. And then Siddhanta Saraswati, he used to give something to his disciples, saying, okay, you keep this much so that you can maintain yourself and your wife. And most of the time, this disciple was only in the ashram, only the mutt, doing different kinds of services. He never used to go home, and very rarely used to go home. So his wife, what she did, she took all her jewelry and then she gave it to Siddhanta Saraswati. And she told, for the person whom this jewelry is meant for, he's always with you, he's already with you, and he's giving everything to you only. So what will I do with this jewelry? This jewelry also you only take. I don't want anything. And she gave it to Siddhanta Saraswati. So this, no, this is he. Although he's working, but then all his activities are meant only for service of the Lord. So this is one level. Now, career as devotional service, it gives an idea that you can cultivate your material desires, or you can fulfill your material desires of having a very good career, of being successful in material life, and at the same time, you can also do your chanting, following regular principles, and do things like that. So it's a part of mixed devotional service. Although devotional service is going on, but then career is not an anga of pure devotional service. No, it's not devotional service that is being going on. One, the person has his material desires also to fulfill, where he thinks that success in his profession and developing a career. So when we say career as devotional service, we are basically saying, you know, improving on one's career, being progressively going up higher the ranks in the institution where he's working. So that is having career as devotional service. But what is he doing? Progressively going up in one's institution or one's company, it's not progressing him in pure devotional service. So he's making material progress, right? But then is he making progress in devotional service or not? What is he doing with that? So therefore, there are two things they try to balance. They try to bring both these things together. But as we have discussed now, one may start at that point where he has material desires and he wants to do devotional service also. But ultimately, one has to give up all these material desires and take to pure devotional service. That should be the ultimate goal. And one should come to that point. That's the whole discussion of this book. We do sadhana bhakti and then we are supposed to come to bhava and prema. And bhava will never arise if there are material desires within the heart, if there's contamination within the heart. So career cannot be devotional service, because career are making progress only in materialistic life. Now we are going up the, what is that, professional ladder. We are going up the professional ladder, improving in our, you become say a software developer, then you become a lead, and then you become manager, you become a delivery manager or whatever. Just keep on going like that. But how is it improving you in devotional service? So your improvement in career is not elevate, it's not anga, no, it's not a limb of devotional service. It's not improving you in devotional service. So how can career be devotional service? So working only for the sake of service, where one is indifferent to his material progress within the institution which is working, that can be pure devotional service if he gives everything for the service of this Krishna consciousness movement. But if he's trying to improve on his career, then it is not pure devotional service, because he has material desires. So that's why karmarpanam and kainkarya. Karmarpanam means one has this, although it's accepted as servitorship, as service to the Lord, because one is doing service. one is engaged in his prescribed duties, or one is doing even his laukika duties only, but then he is giving the result of these duties for the Lord, and some things he's keeping for his maintenance. So that is karmarpanam. Karma is being arpana, arpana is being done, it's being offered to the Lord. That's also considered servitorship only. But that's on a lower level when compared to kainkaryam, where the service is done only for the pleasure of the Lord. It's anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavirtam. There is no karma involved in that. There is no desire for doing fruitive activities. Therefore, kainkaryam, although both are accepted as an anga of devotional service, but kainkaryam, Rupa Goswami explains that kainkaryam is on a higher level, and it is accepted as servitorship at dasya. I had this very specifically in one of the quotes, but somehow I'm not able to find it today. Well, let us see if we can find it. Okay. Yeah. I think that reference is not here. Anyway, Sri Jiva Goswami says very specifically that, or maybe it's one of the translations. Let us see. Yeah, it's all okay. Let's not spend much time. But this is there in one of the commentaries of the Acharyas on Jiva Goswami's commentary, I think, where he says that Rupa Goswami specifically considers this Kainkarya to be Dasya. And the other thing is like dovetailing in devotional service. Can dovetail in devotional service, but and that also is an anga. It's also an anga of bhakti, but it's with weak faith. All these limbs of pure devotions, all these limbs of sadhana bhakti or Vaidhi sadhana bhakti are supposed to conform to this definition of uttama bhakti, of pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavartam anukulyana krishnanu shilana bhakti uttama. So it should be jnana karmadhyanavartam. It should, all these limbs are supposed to be an anga of pure devotional service. So why is karma pram also mentioned here? Because it can lead one to pure devotional service. So it's an anga, but it's a secondary anga. It's like it's one level down from the kainkaryam. Kainkaryam is a direct anga of uttama bhakti, of one of performing pure devotional service, but karmarpanam can lead one to uttama bhakti. So therefore, it's mentioned that way, that varnashrama duties also can be engaged in devotional service. Performing varnashrama duties can be done for uttama bhakti, and performing varnashrama duties can also be done for mixed bhakti. Okay, mishra bhakti also. So it depends on the desire of the living entity. What is his desire? What is prominent? What is the goal of his life? Is the goal of his life to enjoy here as well as perform bhakti? Is the goal of his life is only to enjoy here, total out and out karmi? Or his goal of life is to render pure devotional service, although he has some contaminations, material desires, but he knows what he has to do, and then he engages in all these limbs of devotional service, purifies himself, and then progresses steadily on the path of Uttama Bhakti. So all these different kinds of things are there. So yeah, so karmarpanam and kainkaryam, there's a difference. And similarly, laukiki and vaidiki both can be done only for Krishna. So when we are discussing laukiki here, it is specifically for that reference of Siddhanta Saraswati's disciple. Although he's engaged in laukiki activities, being a professor, it's not basically vaidiki activity of performing sacrifices and doing things like that. But then although he's engaged in such kind of activities, but still he's completely dedicated to his spiritual master. Laukiki activities, Krishna Arthi Akila Cheshta. Perfect example of that. So yeah, so that's what it is. Okay, anything else? Okay, so we'll stop. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nectar of Devotion ki jai.